The Color of Injustice by Abby Marshall and Mackenzie Liska, based on A Time to Kill by John Grisham.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
In Ford County, Mississippi, the rape of 10-year-old African-American Tanya Haley led to the murder of the rapists Billy Ray Cobb and Pete Willard. The young girl's father, Carl Lee Haley, brutally murdered the two men for hurting his daughter. Carl Lee was imprisoned for the violent act, making society question if this was the effect of injustice and racism. The town segregated amongst themselves because of the murder case dealing with one black man and two white men. Legal laws were already put in place since the 1960s to prevent segregation, but this case caused the revival of a segregated community. Racism and terrorism of KKK in Ford County create distrust and inequality to individuals, preventing justice and creating a corrupt community.
Racism started in the United States when the KKK was revived during the 1960s. They terrorized individuals because of their skin color or religious beliefs. Members burned crosses, formed marches and riots, and lynched innocent civilians. Many African Americans needed to escape the unsafe atmosphere that they lived in. Society feared the KKK until laws were passed stating that the KKK violated constitutional rights.
In A Time to Kill, the Klan is a white folks only chance, means that it is the only way for white people to gain justice. By coming to Ford County, Mississippi, they believe that they are preserving the power that the white race holds. The protest between the African American community and the KKK was the effect of the Haley case. The KKK and the African Americans were both fighting for power even though whites had always held the power. The African Americans already had unequal rights in society. The KKK believed their power was being taken away. When the leader of the KKK says, "All laws favor the blacks," he believes African Americans have more rights. The KKK was revived to regain all of the power in Ford County. They reappeared because the racist white community believed without the power of the KKK, they would not win the fight against the African Americans.
During the beginning of the 20th century, lynchings by racist whites killed thousands of innocent black citizens. Carl Lee Haley fought against racism and defended his race by doing them a favor of protecting the community like what should have been done centuries before. Extreme racism led to the segregated community of Ford County. The white attorney, Jake Brigance, tells Carl Lee his conviction will be a symbol of racism, hatred, and prejudices. Carl Lee was convicted solely because he was an African American. If he was a white man, he would have been not guilty and praised for his actions against the rapists. Citizens became so corrupt because of the racism in this deep southern town. In order to gain any equality or justice, Carl Lee is forced to plead insanity. This shows how corrupt the federal legal system is for an African American. Proving a complete lie is to be not guilty is the only way Carl Lee will survive this horror. This defendant, Carl Lee, had to testify that he was suffering from delusions before he shot the two white men, which was a false statement. The town was so twisted and destroyed by racism that lying under oath was the only defense a black man could have in this case. The KKK and other white Southerners have pushed this once reserved family man to the edge of insanity after seeing the brutal condition of his young daughter. In order to be insane under the federal system, you have not to be able to know the difference between right and wrong. Carl Lee was well aware of what he was doing during the premeditated murder of Billy Ray Cobb and Pete Willard. The only defense Jake Brigance and Carl Lee had was a lie to gain equality. If he was a white man, he would not even be on the trial for this case. Carl Lee knew he had to do the right thing for his race or nothing would have been done by the legal system. He was not delusional. Racism forced Carl Lee to break from reality after he saw his daughter in such a harsh condition. Insanity is the only reason for a black man to gain freedom in a town full of racism and hatred.
In Ford County, people were taught to treat blacks as lesser. After the attack, the citizens began to see whites the same way. These people never gave African Americans equal rights because they did not see them as human beings. After the rape, the town began to question that belief. The community believed a black man would do such a crime, but did not know what to think when they found out the rapists were white. Whites were expected to live a successful life. This allowed them to escape any consequence.
Society empowered the corrupt minds of these citizens. As racism went on, so did society's willingness to uphold it. Society never fought against racism because they believed there was nothing wrong with it. The realization that this belief was toxic did not come until after Tanya was attacked. With the attack came a push to fight against the racism. Once racism was spread throughout society, if no one stands against it, then the belief will continue to live on. The influence on this society has led to the destruction of many lives because of the terrorism of the white supremacy.
The evolution of racism began with the KKK creating fear in society. African Americans soon felt the need to fight for equality through protests, riots, and violent actions. It proves that racism holds power and destroys equality. Relationships between friends and families no longer exist. It led to the segregation of races due to the belief of citizens in Ford County. The final stage of the complete destruction of racism is lying and committing violent acts through hatred to gain justice and equality.
Racism has been the cause of many violent acts for centuries. It affected all citizens in the town, some physically through the form of violent acts of the KKK, and others through what was morally right and wrong. Racism destroys minds, attitudes, trust, innocence, and lives of citizens.